Good morning, everybody. Here we are again. Welcome to Going to Ground, number 30. Can you believe it? I've been at this a month now, and it can be quite hard to remember where we are in the month, can't it? Or the week, or the year even, because we haven't got the usual reference points before us. Today is a Sunday. It's the second Sunday of Easter, and it's been lovely to travel with you in this new way over the weeks. And I suspect, like me, that many of you have been having conversations, if you live with others in a household, about how you structure the day. If you live on your own, you'll have been thinking about it too. And like me, perhaps sitting down with a notebook at the start of the day. I couldn't survive without my daily lists because those are that moment when we decide how to react to the day before us, what to do. That point of decision is the point of our greatest opportunity. The whole day kind of teeters, doesn't it, on the decision of how we use the time before us. And we make the world, I think, in those moments by deciding how it's going to be and what we choose. And so I've been thinking a lot about that over the last few days, and wanted to read my piece from the blog, a slightly different piece. I usually talk about some bit of Wiltshire on the blog, but I'm just sort of musing a little bit around Easter today, and I thought I'd read that for you, as I've been doing on previous Sundays as well. And this week's piece is called Sketches of the Heavenly Things. Ours is a life lived in response. Response primarily to our real situation and what it calls for, what it elicits from us. Existence stands at the door knocking, and the truly life-changing moments, being the sphere of our greatest freedom and potential influence, are those in which we decide how to respond. Even when overcome or closed down by circumstance, this much remains open to us. Consequently, those who shape life most profoundly, who for good and ill end up forging the reality the rest of us reckon with, tend to be those who are most responsive or responsible, who, like Moses before the bush, consider themselves addressed by the fearful brilliance of what is. Attention to our particular situation is thus the key to a creative life. I read this week that John Constable, recalling the first excuse me, I'm full of hay fever this morning. I don't know if about any of you, whether you are too. The trees are bursting with it at the moment. Where were we? Yeah, well, I'm thinking about this. John Constable, recalling the first stirrings of an artistic vocation, wrote how the trees seemed to ask me to do something like them. Isn't that lovely? The trees seemed to ask me to do something like them. His experience, in other words, required some kind of reply. What we name as self-possession is really our possession of just this, our own unique answer. And in realizing this liberty, each of us makes the world anew. That recognition, taken one way, can lead towards the exaltation of genius advocated by Ralph Waldo Emerson in his renowned 19th century essay, Self-Reliance. Insist on yourself, never imitate, he wrote. The best part of his case concerns human timidity before the present moment. We are, he repines, ashamed before the blade of grass or blowing rose. These roses under my window make no reference to former roses or to better ones. They are for what they are. They exist with God today. There is no time to them. There is simply the rose. It is perfect in every moment of its existence. Before a leaf bud has burst, its whole life acts. So Emerson's all about seizing the moment, seizing the day, not looking over your shoulder to those who have done things before or who might do it after you better or differently, but expressing your own unique voice. And what he gains in elevating personal agency, like Nelson Mandela did, no less stirringly, in his presidential inauguration speech a century and a half later. Do you remember that amazing speech where he says, we are more afraid of our light than our darkness? We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant? And he says, well, actually, who are you not to be brilliant? Emerson loses, however, by painting himself into an individualist corner where everyone is an island. Is not a man better than a town? He concludes, in humorless antithesis to John Donne. The genius of Christ, which Emerson admits, among others, uniquely able to command a cause, points another way. What makes all that came before him mere sketches of the heavenly things, as the writer of the Epistle to the Hebrews puts it, is really the nature, the quality of his response, as if God himself were owning the questions of existence that spring from its confounding compound of barbarism and beauty. The Passion has captivated art, partly because with every tightening fetter, Christ retains this capacity for responding as we might but cannot. He is life's advocate, even in the gasps of Golgotha. Like Constable's tree, the cross thus arrests our attention that we may approximate something like it. The resurrection is another matter entirely, beyond our palate, reason, or reply. And it's not an answer as such, more a dazzling, dumbfounding rejoinder. What will you make of this? God bless you as you go to ground.